this whole matter of young people with criminal records. This is not merely a criminal justice challenge. It's also an economic justice challenge. What happens when a young person with a criminal record, who's African American, fills out an application and checks the box, answering in answer to the seemingly innocuous question, have you ever been arrested or convicted of a crime? And we know, according to studies, that when you check that box, that you've been arrested or convicted of a crime, no matter how long ago, no matter how nonviolent, your chances of getting a call back at an interview or any follow-up whatsoever decreases by 2/3. And if you're white and male, your chances decrease by half. And we see that race and having a criminal record coalesce. They converge as 2 points of bias in one person's life. What do we mean by that? When a white male with a criminal record has a better chance of getting a job than a black male without a criminal record, something is profoundly wrong. But I say to you, we need not despair, because all across this country we see, in town after town, city after city, attorneys, advocates, members of the NAACP standing up, standing against this plague, standing for the values that we as a country hold dear. We as a National Association for the Advancement of Colored People have always been about a deep love and reverence for the law. When Thurgood Marshall marched up the steps of the Supreme Court, he did so with a deep conviction, a belief that the law applied to everyone equally and promised justice to everyone equally, due process under the law. And so here we are this many years later saying that yes, we can do something about this challenge. Yes, we can turn this situation around. Yes, we can have a criminal justice system that deters, prevents, and punishes crime, and yet offers up the hope and the realized promise of justice. When we consider voting rights, were we to take a selfie of social justice, here's what we find. In Oklahoma, a pretty straightforward voter ID law. As voter ID laws go, not the worst in the country by any means. Pretty reasonable, pretty straightforward. But when we look at states like Texas, this is an interesting and somewhat ironic way of discerning differences between forms of ID to vote. In the great state of Texas, you can use an ID which is used to secure a weapon. That will allow you to vote. But if you have an ID that you use to matriculate at a college campus, that will not allow you to vote. In the great state of North Carolina, if you have an ID issued by Fort Bragg, you can vote. If you have an ID issued by the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, or North Carolina A&T, you can't vote. We see time and time again in state legislatures across the country certain nefarious and Machiavellianly creative means of stripping and deterring people from their right and their opportunity to vote. We see it. But at a historic moment when young people serially elected a president and re-elected a president, are we saying that at that very moment we're going to keep them from voting? Are we saying at the very moment where we usher in new immigrants, we usher in people into citizenship, who want to vote, who believe in the right to vote, who believe that the ballot box is a shrine of democracy, do we say at that moment that we're not going to allow you to vote? Do we allow our Supreme Court to gut the Voting Rights Act, to gut Section 5? Do we say that that is enough? I say no. I say no. The NAACP has stood time and time again for the right to vote. Why? Because we believe that in the constellation of civil rights, in the firmament of our freedoms, shining brightly is the North Star of our rights rights, and that being the right to vote. We will not allow it to be dimmed. We will not allow that light to go out. We will stand for the right to vote time and again, day in and day out. We believe that if at 18 years old, you can raise your hand and swear to defend the Constitution of the United States as a member of the Marines, the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, or the Coast Guard, then your right to vote should be held sacred and sacrosanct, and we will protect it.